After studying this module, you will be able to know what is handwriting, learn about the principles of handwriting, identify the features of handwriting which help in individualization of handwriting. Introduction to handwriting. Certain visual signs or marks which are accepted by two or more fellow men or group or person of individuals of a town, city or a country as a means of communication of informing one's idea to others for particular matter or understanding or sending message to others is in a broad sense known as handwriting. This may include painting, drawing or embossing. In other words, writing is the practically visible speech or the talking paper, or by all its thousands of peculiarities, combination is the most personal and individual thing that a man does that leaves a record which can be seen and studied. Writing is a conscious act. Still, through repeated use, the actual formation of each letter and word becomes almost automatic, so that the experienced writer concentrates most of his or her conscious thought on the subject matter rather than the writing process itself. Thus, the writing comes to be made up of innumerable subconscious habitual patterns which are much part of the individual's as any of her personal habits or mannerism. However, writing is more than a set of subconscious habits. It is a living, gradually changing product of the writer and is far from mechanical reproduction prepared by the complex human mechanism of muscles and nerves that are called into play to produce it. It is influenced by a mental picture of copybook form, modified by individual's taste and writer's ability to imitate that which is in his or her mind. The physical and mental conditions that prevail at the time of writing is also influenced by a person's writing. Whether the handwriting is a criterion of personality is debatable, but that is the individual to each and every person is an established fact. Therefore, it can be identified, and the identification is based on all of the elements that combine to create individuality.
Dear student, now let us learn about the principles of handwriting. In courts of law, the expert evidence is frequently given on handwriting, and the giver of the evidence is not unnaturally described as handwriting expert. This epithet can be misleading. It seems to imply that here is a person who knows all about handwriting. He knows how many different scripts there are now and in the past, how they are developed, how they are taught, and how they are affected difficult circumstances, why one person writes the way he does, and so on. In fact, this is not the case. It is true that there are people who study the development of script used by different peoples, others who study handwriting to discover the personality of the writer, and others who specialize the teaching of handwriting. All of these can describe as experts in handwriting, but the description when used in the courts of law applies to those who perform a task within clear limitations. They are concerned with identification of writer of a piece of question writing, the recognition of simulated signature and other related matters. To do this on a scientific basis, it is necessary to build up background knowledge by studying handwriting in many different circumstances. Thus, to identify the handwriting of an individual, it is necessary to know how the writing of one person differs from that of another, and how the writing of one individual varies. It is not necessary to know why one person writes the way he does, or to know how he was taught to write, or what teaching methods are available. But some knowledge of these basic facts can be of assistance. More important is the study of what is found in writings on a document, how they are being examined to determine whether they have a common writer. The identification of handwriting is based on some established scientific principles, which are: first one, the handwriting of every mature writer is a personal and individual to him alone. Second, it is impossible for a person to produce exactly same that has been written first. There must be natural variation in the writing of same person. And the third, from the above principle, it is a fact that one cannot write two signatures precisely alike. And the fourth is that if two signatures are alike, then one of them is forged. Every person's writing undergoes gradual change in the course of life. However, in most of the cases, the changes are very slow and they may be not disconsiderable. Two different persons cannot write in similar style. A writer cannot exceed his writing skill and ability unless he makes serious efforts and practice. A person cannot opt different styles of writing at different times as to change one's normal style of writing as on exceeding difficult task. As you know, each and every individual develops his own individual characteristics with the passage of time, which is developed slowly, and it is not possible for a writer to change it suddenly. Next is, a disguise is always superficial. Disguise lead to inferior quality of writing. Naturally, when a person tries to hide his own writing, he tries to disguise, but it is not possible for a person to change his writing habit at the time achieving others' writing habit. This is not possible. The attempts to disguise in most cases is the simple in nature. Now let us learn about the features of handwriting. Handwriting is formed by various elements and every element has some value in the process of comparison, though their importance may differ in different writing. Signature and handwriting are identified through critical study and comparison of unconscious writing habit, individual characteristics, structure of individual letters and their combination with each other. Handwriting is not compared by mechanical method, rather they are compared on the basis of detailed observation and scientific evaluation of that observation in the light of basic identification, rules and expertise. The several characteristics feature which go to establish a personal writing habits may comprise of writing movement, writing skills, line quality, writing slant, writing speed, spacing, size and proportion. Other factors like pen pressure, pen positioning, shading, arrangement, alignment, etc. also helps in determination which are produced from particular form of writing. Handwriting analysis is a methodological process that relies on extensive knowledge of the way people form letters, which characteristics of letters formation are unique, and the physiological process behind writing, the way in which a person's fine motor skills can affect his or her handwriting can leave clues about author's identity. The primary basis of handwriting analysis as a science is that every person in the world has a unique way of writing. When we were all kids in primary school, we learned to write based on a particular copybook, a style of writing. Which copybook on handwriting is based on depends on when and where we grew up. So, at first we all probably wrote in a similar way to kids of our own age and location, but with the passage of time, those writing characteristics we learn in the school, our writing style become only the underlying method of our handwriting. We develop individual characteristics that are unique to us and distinguish our handwriting from someone else. Most of us don't write the way we did in the first or second grade. And while two or more people may share a couple of individual characteristics, the chance of those people sharing 20 or 30 individual characteristics is so unlikely that many handwriting experts would say it is impossible. Now dear student, let us learn about movement in writing. Movement, it is the manner in which finger, hand, forearm and whole arm move to produce writing, which is known as writing movement or movement in writing. The movement employed in the formation of letters, figures, words. It is further classified into finger movement, wrist movement, forearm movement, whole arm movement and the various combination like finger with wrist, wrist with forearm, forearm with whole arm or the combination of all the four. Let us learn about each of them. First is finger movement. In the finger movement, the letters are formed by the action of thumb and first and second finger. The hand and arm remains inactive except for lateral motion. The finger movement is the initial movement in writing and it is classed as poor movement due to excessive grip and concentration on the writing instrument. The writing written with finger movement usually has some characteristics like: first, lower order of writing skill is sometimes labored and drawn movement lacking rhythm and fluency. Second, lack of clear-cut, smooth strokes and presence of broad curves. Third, irregular curves and ill-defined connections between letters. Irregular or heavy pen pressure and slow writing speed. Now let us learn about the wrist movement in detail. Writing with wrist movement is produced by the action of hand as a whole and finger with wrist or center of motion. The writing with wrist movement usually have some basic characteristics like: fast one, fair degree of writing speed and fine edges of strokes. Second, angular connection at the top and bottom of letters and narrow curves. Third, usually tapering terminals of letters. Fourth, uneven alignment with ascending tendency, well-defined curves and smooth connections. Sometimes when writing is written in faster speed, some of the letters may become illegible and show inferior quality of strokes. This type of writing movement is employed by great majority of individuals. Next is forearm movement. This type of movement is employed by those who have a higher degree of muscular coordination and command over the writing instrument. The movement of hand and arm with the elbow resting on the table as the center of motion is known as forearm movement. Now, forearm movement, when combined with the action of the finger and wrist movement, produces clear round and oval writing. The arm increases the degree of speed and finger and thumb produce legible forms of letters. The significant characteristics are well-defined formation of letters and higher order of writing skill, clear-cut symmetrical strokes, rapid writing speed, uniform baseline, sharp and clear edges of strokes, flying start and tapering terminals, fine and graduated pen pressure. Now let us learn in detail whole arm movement. Whole arm movement is the action of arm without resting point. This class of writing movement produces longer and embellished stroke. It is generally employed in forming capital letters of large size in blackboard, writing in very large writing written by artists or signboards, etc. It should be noted that the person who is habitual to write with finger movement cannot opt the higher movement, that is wrist movement, forearm movement or whole arm movement. However, the writer of higher movement may descend to lower movement in some special circumstances. Therefore, it is not possible for a writer of finger movement to force the writings or signatures written with wrist or forearm movement. Now dear student, we will learn about the pen pressure. Pen pressure may be defined as the force or pressure applied on the writing instrument during writing operation. The acquisition on the habit of pen pressure is automatic and unconscious. This writing characteristic is one of the most fixed and is a personal habit, and it infuses life to writing. Pen pressure in a signature or writing can be seldom simulated by the forger at the exact location and in correct degree due to the reason that firstly, a forger normally does not give to such a minute and hidden characteristics, and secondly, it is beyond the power of a forger to apply similar pressure on the writing instrument and give similar emphasis at certain points which are employed by actual writers. The habit acquired by long practice and individual taste. Pen pressure is further classified into four. The first is light pen pressure, heavy pen pressure, medium pen pressure and graduated pen pressure. Application of light pen pressure produces fine strokes, and this type of writing pressure is generally applied by skilled writers having good muscular coordination and command over the writing instruments. The heavy pen pressure is generally applied by the children at the initial stage of learning to write, by illiterate, by forgers, and by the persons for whom the act of writing becomes a difficult task due to one or the other reason. The heavy pen pressure may also cause indentation in the paper if writing support is not too hard. The degree of pen pressure which lies between the light and heavy pen pressure is referred to as medium pen pressure. In graduated pen pressure, there is harmonious manner according to the individual taste of writer. In forged writing, since the main motive of the forger is to copy the design of the letters or other glaring features, therefore, while drawing the strokes, he does not usually care for the relative width of the stroke at different places or for the pressure applied in the formation of letters, and he may produce the strokes with varying and inconsistent pen pressure. Next is shading. Shading is defined as the variation in the width of the strokes. Shading is considered to be visual record of the manner in which the pen was moved on the paper, that is, the angle at which the pen was held with respect to the writing surface and with respect to the line of writing. Pen pressure applied and emphasis of the pen at particular points. Shading habit is an involuntary act, personal to each writer, resulting from his individualized habit of holding pen at certain angle, applying pen pressure and twisting the pen at curves according to his ability and taste. The shading may be smooth, graduated, rough, irregular, heavy, explosive or bushy, or rare or accidental. Next is pen position. Pen position refers to the position and angle of pen with respect to writing surface as well as with respect to the line or direction of writing. The manner and the angle of holding the pen are the most individual and fixed writing habits and can neither be easily disguised nor copied or simulated. Pen position also depends on the writing surface. Everyone holds pen at different position, varying from almost vertical from the writing surface. When the pen is held in vertical position, it produces fine thin lines of uniform width. The shading is very less or lifeless and sometimes stretchy. When the pen is held at very low angle, it produces broad strokes with heavy shading. Next is writing speed. Writing speed cannot be determined or measured with the help of an instrument. Rather, it is judged from the nature of strokes by keen observation and guiding principles. The speed is directly related to the movement, that is, higher the degree of writing movement, the greater is the degree of writing speed. Deliberately changing in disguised writing or it gets affected at the time of forging the signature or writing. Generally, the writing or signature written in slow speed can be easily distinguished from those written in fast speed. The principles may be helpful in ascertaining the writing speed properly. First is writing portraying to heavy pen pressure, blunt starts, blunt terminals and pen lifts indicate slow speed. Well-defined rhythmic strokes and tapering terminals indicate fast speed. The presence of tremors, retouching and pen pauses in the strokes show slow speed. Next is writing slant. The inclination of letters of their strokes with the actual or imaginary baseline is known as writing slant. The importance and the role of writing habit in comparison of writing vary from person to person, since the change of writing slant results in marked difference in the appearance of writing. Therefore, most favorable and common disguise in quote, specimen, writing an anonymous letter is a change in the slant. A correct interpretation of this habit may also prove very useful in case of fraudulent addition and alteration, because the preparatory may not be able to align the writing slant of added writing or figures with the original writing or figures. or he may not be conscious of the fact that the slight change in the writing slant, if the added writing, may cause major changes in the fact of case. The slant can be measured with the help of protractor. Next is size. Size of writing may vary from person to person. In some writing or signature, this habit may have little importance, whereas in some writing or signature, the size may play a significant role in determining their genuineness or otherwise. The writer may reduce the size of writing according to the availability of space for writing. The size may be classified as long, medium, small or irregular.
Let us summarize what we have learned in this module. Any written mode which conveys some message or accepted by group of individuals is referred as the handwriting. There are some principles which help in examination of handwriting features. The several characteristics feature which goes on to establishing a personal writing habits may comprise of writing movement, writing skills, line quality, writing slant, writing speed, spacing, size and proportions, style of writing, pen pressure, pen position, quality of strokes, shading, alignment, arrangement, etc. There are some parameters which help in individualization of handwriting from being forced or genuine.